Welcome to the Women Leaders Association podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. Be sure to tune in each week to hear an empowering message from the world's top women executives, trailblazers, entrepreneurs, and all-around fierce female leaders. I'm your host, Julie Ann Kirkland, and I will be taking you on a deep dive of each message to equip you with the principles, strategies, and tools you need to start crushing your goals, increasing your impact, creating work-life harmony, and did I mention have more fun? Because when you love what you do it better. The Women Leaders Association is the world's largest women executives association with over 30,000 women in executive and leadership positions who are committed to the development and advancement of women in the corporate arena. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association chapter, would enjoy daily podcasts, or you desire to become a part of the Women's Mastermind group near you, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com. Now let's tune in for this incredible message. Welcome, Leigh. I'm so glad you're here.
I am honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So right before we pressed record, we were talking about, what it's like for women in especially male-dominated societies. But talk a little bit, Leigh, about your background. Give us a little bit about where you got to and how now, working at this global consulting company, being one of the only women. Talk a little bit about that impact and that kind of journey to that point.
Yeah. I started my career in retail. Retail has a lot of women in it. And I worked in corporate environments that largely were female dominated. But it was interesting at the top, it was a little bit more male dominated. The hours are long, and there was many women who may not be able to have accommodated that. And so I spent many years on the corporate side and then migrated over to consulting. And it was very interesting to come to the consulting side, which was much more male dominated. It was a career that largely involved historically a lot of travel, a lot of long hours. It was like road warrior kind of mentality. And especially if you were in tech consulting, tech is very male dominated. And many women did not go into consulting and may have felt alienated or just not a career that they could really embrace and grow into leadership roles because of the demands. And that has changed dramatically, and very excited to be in consulting and having seen the evolution and really talking to my peers who have been in consulting much longer of all the changes that have occurred. And especially probably after COVID, especially with a lot of hybrid work and remote work, very beneficial for women to be able to accelerate their career and get into leadership roles more easily, especially in what we would call traditional male-dominated probably roles or industries.
Yeah. So, knowing it was more of the male-dominated, what piqued your interest to be like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot?
That is a great question. I kind of fell into it, and I was on a call doing a reference for somebody else, and they were really intrigued with my background and said, we really want someone who can sit at the table and be able to talk like in the business kind of space. And it was a little bit intimidating. And we think about that kind of head trash you talk to yourself about. This group I was going into was a startup, had been bought by another company. And all of my colleagues had PhDs, some had double masters, and I had my corporate kind of experience to lean in on, but that's what they were most excited about. And so it was, I loved being the person in the room. I never wanted to be called a SME or a subject matter expert, but I did have an expertise that the rest of the room didn't. And they really embraced that, and it was phenomenal. And so able to come over and come into consulting that way.
Yeah. And what have you found as, now you've been doing the consulting, you've been not only in the room, but entering in through other rooms, right? Where you were actually able to bring the value to different clients and such. And what has been kind of your experience with that? What has been people receiving you as the consultant? Have you had any hiccups with that? Talk a little bit about that dynamic.
Yeah. It's interesting. We do a lot of technology consulting, business consulting. I may be largely, in most cases, the only female in the room. And not because of age or tenure or anything like that, just based on the group that I'm working with. And so I try and bring in other folks, other women, and be able to command the room and really help give feedback to other women who may feel I don't belong to a seat at the table, or hey, I don't have as much experience, and feel like they have to apologize up front. And I'll say, no, you're at the table, you speak. And I find it, while it's noticeable I'm the only woman in the room, I don't feel like I'm treated any differently. I'm just excited to be able to help business solve problems, and work collaboratively. But it is, noticeable from that perspective, but it's definitely evolving, and it's great to a lot of, especially on the data side. I was talking to a woman, a lot of CDOs, the chief data officers are women, and it's very exciting to be able to work with different parts of organizations, and bring other women to the table.
And that's such an important conversation to have. And I feel like we have it all the time at our events, and, be it virtual or in person with the Women Leaders Association, is that imposter syndrome, right? Like, women are constantly talking about that. And so often the conversation that I'm hearing more and more is that women aren't even applying for these type roles because they don't have XYZ that they think is like the determining factor, when that might not be the case. Just like with you, that wasn't necessarily the case at all. Like, you had the experience and what they were actually looking for to be able to connect with the people that needed to be served.
Right. I feel as though women have to talk about, here's my years of experience, here's how long I've done this, here to validate. And I will introduce myself in a room, and I've never been in consulting. I haven't been at the organization a long time. I have 30 years of business experience, and move on. I don't need to qualify myself. If I've already made it into the room, people are listening, and we have to treat others with that same respect and continue that dialogue, and not, it's the stories you tell yourself in your head. I learned that. I think Brene Brown says that a lot. You have to get that out of your vernacular, and just show up.
Yes. And I love that you said that, like, that you're not here to have to qualify yourself, because so many people do that, and I say all the time as a coach, you have nothing to prove. You only have something to give. And when you're able to switch that perspective, it changes everything. It frees up so much for you to be able to just show up authentically as yourself. One of my biggest flexes is that I've potty trained quadruplets. Nobody else has that experience. You know what I mean? Like, it has really nothing to do with anything, but also everything to do with everything, because I can handle overwhelm almost better than anybody else. You know what I mean? So, like, don't discount what you actually have been through, even if it's not corporate enough. You know what I mean? Like, the skills and the knowledge and all. I did not know that when I had 4 babies at one time, that it was really preparing me to be a dynamic coach. I had no idea, but I learned as I was, literally physically stretching, how important it is to be able to stretch your capacity to fulfill things that you never thought you were capable of doing. You know what I mean? And, like, to be able to now apply that into my clients and speak that life into them is huge. It's huge.
Well, and technology and innovation and transformation are moving so fast. And most people in the room do not have the experience. And what I love about consulting is the nexus of, I have done this before, and I've never done this before. And being able to bring those to light. There are many times, there are very unique situations. If we think about AI and things like that, no one has that experience. We're all coming to the table, but how do we each bring our own unique experiences and strengths and to the table and be able to problem solve? And that's what you really, really need to do.
Absolutely.
And like having quadruplets, you didn't have any experience, right? And each one was unique experiences. And even if you tried to explain to someone else, I mean, it's the same the same situation. Raising children is the same way.
Different. Right, exactly. And, talk a little bit about, because you touched on this right before we hit record, but how there are still women in higher up positions that have this kind of block mentality on what it actually looks like to invest and help other women rise. And it almost infuriates me, because we as women, when we are willing to collaborate and bring each other up and build each other up and call each other higher, the degree of which we all rise at the same time, it's huge. But there's still women out there. I remember I had several years ago, back in my brick and mortar company that I had a tax lady, and she came in, and she was a good bit old, maybe 30 years older than me. And, here I am innovating and coming up with all these new things. And she just straight up shut me down and called me young sweetheart. And I'm like, whoa, like, stop. You know what I mean? Like, it's great that this is your area of expertise, but this is my area of expertise. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to put me down. You don't have to build yourself up. I respect you just as you are. But talk a little bit about, the conversation that you were having with your friend about it.
Absolutely. I had a mentor many years ago who I still see to this day, that I worked for, who always used the phrase, I look forward to working for you one day. Two younger people. They were 10, 12 years older than me. And I love that. And I think about that when I'm meeting other women. I want to pull you up, and I hope to work for you one day. But unfortunately, there are a lot of situations where, and it's been noted on other podcasts of yours, it was so hard to get to the top. And, do you know what I had to go through? And there were times that I cried at work, and there was a woman that made me feel miserable. And I always think, do you want to do that to someone else?
Right.
No, you don't.
Right.
Let's put that aside and really lift each other up. And there's not just one spot, and it's not either you or me. Let's make it both and help each other grow. And I have so many mentors and professional women in my life, and men, who have helped my career. I can't repay them. So all I can do is help others and be able to network and grow other young professionals, because people helped me way back in the day.
And it's so powerful when you get that voice of encouragement. I think it's John Maxwell that says encouragement is oxygen to the soul. And it is. And there is enough hard in this world that, as we are trying to grow and develop and increase and, break glass ceilings and all of this stuff, to have somebody encourage us in that is huge. It's hugely important. And that's also to the women in these higher up positions that are leaders in their companies, like, that are listening right now. Hear that the power that you have to help develop another leader, not just a follower, not just an employee, not somebody to manage, but if you think about it as you are a leader who is developing other leaders, like, that's legacy. That is building something so far beyond yourself. And like, I want more of that in this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was recently, I live in Columbus, Ohio, and there was recently a Woman of Influence Awards. And many of the women are very accomplished, and they win a lot of awards, but they had a Rising Star Award. And this was put on by a bank that is led by a female president and largely a women leadership team. And one of my colleagues won a Rising Star as a young lady, few years out of college. And what I loved is the president of the bank sent every award winner a bouquet of flowers. So to our office, and I personally wrote her a note, and I said, that was awesome. And she said, we cannot just do enough. I want to recognize these women with an award. I'm glad to have an event. And just taking that little extra step is so amazing to see. And just being able to recognize and encourage, like you said, especially as we work remote and hybrid, and we may just not be able to be in the same room every day and learn from each other. Just to get acknowledgement like that is so rewarding and refreshing to see.
It is. And, some of the other conversations that I'm hearing more and more is people are talking about they can't keep employees happy. and I think a lot of that is this lack of fulfillment that the younger generations are experiencing, because hybrid is great. I am grateful to work from home. Like I was telling you, I just did 6 miles and then I just threw up in my hair and ponytail. Like I love that option, right? Because it doesn't, to me, that is full integration. Like I get to be my full self. I don't feel like I have to suppress different parts of me in order to show up, which is wonderful. And it's just like, I think because of that, though, we're lacking the daily good job and nice to see you, and just those little moments of connectedness that really matter to people. And so I think when those are lacking, doing things like recognizing them and sending them flowers and that goes so far. It is more, because again, some of the conversations are, we can't pay these people enough. It's like paychecks don't matter anymore. And it's like, oh, they matter, but it's not hitting the right thing, and so they are still seeking something that this company is unable to fulfill on, because what they're seeking has nothing to do with a paycheck. That might be why they took the job, but to keep the job and to invest in the job is very different.
Right. And even just being around other people, it's amazing to watch. How did they handle that situation? How did they answer the question? How did they insert themselves in the conversation? How did they, if they didn't know the answer, just how to manage through a room? Even when I joined Centric in 2019, being able to watch women leaders kick off a meeting, navigate conversations, negotiate, close, those kind of things to see in person is so important. And asking for feedback. What could I have done differently? What do you think about this? How do we do this next time? And just having those moments, we just have to get better at being able to do that as leaders, to everyone that we work with and interface with. And it's a value, and not just be on the screen, hit end and move to the next call.
It's so true. And again, if you go back to that, I have nothing to prove, I only have something to give. It really does offer up the freedom, again, as the leader, to be able to say things like, I enjoy not being the smartest one in the room. Like I love that I have surrounded myself with people who are brilliant in different areas than I am. Like that's a beautiful thing. And I think more and more people that are grabbing onto that as leaders, to pull that out of people, like, this is your area of genius. Like, I'm going to give you all of the things so that you can continue to develop in this area. Like, those are the companies that are really exploding. Those are the people that have constantly people trying to work for them. Like that's because you're creating an atmosphere of connectedness where people feel empowered and equipped. And they're like, yes, this is fulfilling to me,
Yeah. I was at a woman in tech conference yesterday, and someone used the phrase that has been said before. I don't know who credited. If you're the smartest in the room, find another room.
In a new room.
And I love that. It's a good reminder.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Always be that person who's growing and learning. And one thing about consulting that I enjoy is every time I'm in a meeting, it's a different industry. It's a different group of people. It's a different problem. It's a different question. Every time throughout my day and throughout my week. And that's so it's fun to be able to learn from so many people.
Yeah, I love that. So what would be a piece of advice that you would give to the woman right now who's listening, thinking like, oh my gosh, I really think I could get into consulting? How would you tell her, like, what's her step one?
Yeah. Believe in yourself, take the jump, take the risk. Like you said, you look at a job description and it is just qualification, this many years experience. And I always say, I don't know how I got this job. I probably don't check half the boxes. Put yourself out there and trust that and have a deep experience in. And if you love to solve problems, you love to be involved in discussions, consulting is great. It is something challenging. It's something different. You get to move on. You're with different clients and in different situations. And people love that variability of it. And there's so much great consulting. There's, high level strategic consulting and many great organizations, all the way to very specific. If you love a very one particular competency, and be great at that, you can grow in a career and become a leader and lead an offering within a consulting company and really drive strategy and drive the marketing and be able to be a thought leader throughout, the organization and with clients. It's all very exciting.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It is exciting, Leigh. Thank you so much for this conversation. Is there any other piece of advice, or I do want you to say how that people can connect with you. So we could be sure to put that in the show notes. But what is one way that somebody can connect with you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. Love to start the conversation and we can go from there. I think really from, advice is have a mentor, be curious,
Yes,
ask for feedback. Don't be afraid that most careers are not linear. Make the jump, continue to grow out and take risks. You don't like to speak publicly. You don't like to work in Excel. You don't feel great about building presentations. Go out and seek out people who have that strength and find out how to learn more. And just the more you can build out things, you don't have to be excellent at it. You don't have to do it every day. You might walk away from it, but just understanding how a P&L and financials work, be more well-rounded. And always be curious and be a lifelong learner. It is going to help you regardless if you want to start your own company, if you want to get into consulting, if you want to be an executive with a large corporation or a small, startup. All of those things, just continue to invest in yourself. I know that sounds, very traditional. But take those moments and understand that your career hits plateaus. It's okay to get off the track, and you don't always have to be chasing something or looking around or feel like you're getting stale. It has to be right for you and right moment, and those changes within your career. Some of them happen naturally. Some of them you have to also see where things are going and follow that and not be scared of it.
Oh, I love it. That's such great advice. And I think everybody can benefit from that, especially that your career is not linear, because it's not, and it really shouldn't be. You know what I mean? I feel like if it is, then you're missing out on some pretty incredible things that require you to grow and go deeper and evolve as a person. So I love that. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Leigh.
Thank you for your time. This was wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, ladies, if you are looking to connect with Leigh, be sure to connect with her on LinkedIn. You can click on that in our show notes. And if you look for a chapter near you with the Women Leaders Association, we have that available to you as well. Thanks, ladies. Have a good one. Bye-bye.